Hello, folks. Welcome to Clicks and Clarity, powered by Socio Squares. I'm Bobby C, and this is episode 1. Why isn't my website working the way I need it to? This is the show where we answer real questions business owners ask about websites, SEO, AI, and online marketing without the fluff. And today's topic: why do some websites look great but bring in nothing but spam leads and radio silence? Joining me is our CEO here at Socio Squares, Gaurav Mendarata, aka Rav. For over a decade, Rav's helped hundreds of businesses generate actual results online using AI, SEO, and smart web strategy. Let's dive in.
Let's go, Bobby. This one's personal because we hear this all the time.
Right? Two things come up again and again. I don't know if my website is doing anything, and all I get are spam leads. And let's be honest, so many websites are just bragging. They're basically printed brochures pasted onto the internet. It's like they're trying to be Batman, and in the process, they make the visitor feel like Robin.
Exactly. And that's one of the biggest mindset shifts. No customer wants to feel like Robin and pay you. Your job isn't to swoop in with a cape. It's to show up like Alfred, the advisor. You guide the visitor, understand their problem, and then you can step in as the one who's got a plan.
Love that. First you listen, then you guide them on how you can solve their problem.
Absolutely. Showcasing authority is important, but only after you've laid out your solutions and your process clearly. And look, social proof. Testimonials, that's huge. It builds trust. But even before we get to all that, we have got to look at the numbers. I love the saying, in God we trust, everyone else bring data. So before we touch a single pixel, we ask, what are visitors actually doing on your site? We recently onboarded a client who gets 3,000 visitors per month. Sounds great, right?
Huge, right?
For a small service-based business? Yeah, absolutely. But when we checked the average time on site, just 15 seconds.
Wow. That's a bounce, not a visit.
Exactly. That's barely enough time to blink, let alone build confidence. If you want real engagement, people need to stick around for 90 to 100 seconds. That's when curiosity turns into interest, and interest becomes a lead. So step 1 is check your metrics. Where are users dropping off? In this client's case, the site was super content heavy, missing social proof, and had barely any calls to action.
All right, so in this client's case, too much text, not enough trust signals, and nowhere for the visitor to take action.
Exactly. It was all information, no direction. And that's the mistake we see over and over. You've got to guide the visitor. Make it easy for them to say, yes, this is for me. Because if they have to work too hard to figure that out, they're gone.
So first you fix the flow, then the message.
Bingo. Fix the flow by understanding user behavior. Then fix the message to make it crystal clear. We understand your problem, and here's our plan to solve it. You're not building a museum piece. You're building a conversation.
Boom. That's the shift. From just a digital brochure to a real digital guide. That's how a website goes from just sitting there to actually working for your business. Let's switch gears a bit. Let's say someone is starting fresh or redoing their website. How can they make sure it's not just beautiful, but actually supports long-term business goals?
Great question, Bobby. I usually break it down into 3 key steps. First, lead with value. Like Dale Carnegie said in How to Win Friends and Influence People, get the other person saying yes, yes. So start with the question your visitor is already thinking. Call out the problem they're facing, then show them your plan, a simple, clear process to solve it. Second, build trust through social proof. Real testimonials, honest reviews, videos, screenshots, not fluff. Just real people saying, yep, this worked for me. That kind of credibility is gold. And third, don't overlook the About Us page. But here's where people mess this up. It shouldn't start with you, it should start with them. Show them you understand their problem, lead with empathy. Then, once they feel seen, explain why your team is built to help. That's where you earn trust. Because, like I always say, you earn the right to talk about yourself only after you've proven you understand them.
Boom. That puts the whole about section on its head. It's not about me, it's about how we help you.
Exactly. Once they feel like you get them, then they'll care about your team, your vibe, and why you're the right fit.
All right, let's jump to SEO. What role does SEO play in website development, and how early should it be considered?
Actually, Bobby, we could dedicate 2 or 3 podcasts on this topic alone. But since you asked, let's start with the main premise. If you're thinking about SEO after the site is live, you're already late to the party.
Oof. Harsh but true.
A lot of people think SEO is this thing you sprinkle on top at the end, like parsley. But really, it's the main ingredient. Start with content. What problems do you solve? What are your customers Googling at 2 a.m. when they can't sleep? What are they afraid of, confused about, or frustrated by? Google gives us that data and we plan content around that. It's not just about keywords. It's about intent. If someone searches estate planning for business owners, your site better say more than just that phrase. Show them you understand their word. Make them feel seen. That's how you show up and connect.
So it's not just being on the list, it's being the answer.
Exactly. Once we know what they're looking for, we design the layout, page flow, and movement through the site around that intent. Here is a bonus tip. We built technical SEO in Smart Formulon from day one. Site speed, mobile readiness, clean URLs. It's not a checklist. It's how we think. I promise we will have a complete podcast dedicated or two to SEO.
All right, let's wrap with the hot topic everyone is talking about, AI. Rem, is AI really helping with website development?
Well, Bobby, again, this is an entire podcast on its own, but so as not to disappoint, here are a few things we are seeing and implementing at Social Squares. Absolutely, it is helping, but let's keep it real. AI is making things faster and smarter, but it's not magic, not yet. You can't just say build me a website in one prompt and expect a high converting branded experience. And pure AI generated copy? Not great. Search engines are catching on and they're not loving the copy paste stuff.
So how are we using it smartly?
Here's how we're using AI at Social Squares. We build detailed customer personas. We write customer function problem statements and FAQs. We use it to spot gaps in content or missed SEO opportunities. For landing pages, we use AI to whip up quick first drafts with ready-made templates just to get the ball rolling faster. And we run QA tests across browsers and devices to make sure everything's smooth. And tools like Dama, super handy for spinning up quick landing pages. Great for solopreneurs or minimum viable product or MVP type projects. But if you want a serious SEO play and long-term growth, you'll outgrow those tools fast. Most of them lock you into their own content management system or CMS, which makes scaling really tough.
So AI is the co-pilot, not the captain.
Exactly. AI is your assistant. But strategy? That's still a human job. For now.
And that's a wrap on episode 1 of Clicks and Clarity. Today we tackled why so many websites fall flat, how to fix them, when SEO really begins, and keeping it real on AI and website development.
If your site looks pretty but doesn't bring in leads, or if it's all spam and silence, that's your sign it's time to rethink the strategy.
Head over to sociosquares.com to see how we're helping businesses build AI-powered websites that don't just sit there, but actually grow revenue.
It's strategy first, AI smart, and results always.
Catch you next time on Clicks and Clarity.